Welcome to Influence Interviews, where my mission is to introduce you to people who will have a positive impact on your practice, on your life, because of their expertise, their experience, and their example of great leadership. I am here today with my friend, Kate Crockett. She is from DK Carr, my favorite cybersecurity firm. And she's here to talk to us a little bit today about how important it is to make your security, your privacy, all of those really important things a part of your culture. Yeah. So, I speak to culture. I have my own onboarding process and my own courses around this, right, Kate? Yeah. But it wasn't until I really spoke to you and Debbie and learned a little bit more about the cybersecurity part of it and the privacy part of it, to where I had to add that to my own framework.
I'm so happy to hear that you've added that to your courses. That makes me so happy.
So when you teach dummies like me.
That event, our job was done. We taught somebody, you took those nuggets home. It's perfect.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to help spread that word, because I think what you do is so incredibly important, obviously. But if it's not a part of your routine, it's not a part of your culture.
Yeah.
It's just going to get, you're going to check the box and move on and put yourself at risk every day. So
then you're going to look at that employee when something happens, goes, well, why did you do this? Mm-hmm. Well, because I wasn't taught not to do it,
Right. And so that's someone who's trained. Like a lot of times we bring on employees who have come from other practices, right? And so we assume they're trained. Unless you do that training yourself, you can't confirm how much they know about it.
Well, think about it. When you have a new employee and you do onboarding, you're doing the same things. You're, teaching them the access, giving them access to their computer. You're, going through your health plans and they're signing off on things. You're telling them about your 401k. You're telling them about their PTO. You're making them sign this big, huge handbook that really, does anybody read that entire handbook ever? Probably not. They probably just sign their name on it, And so you already have this onboarding, but in this industry specifically, I'm going to back it up just a little bit. Before you even have these employees come in, unfortunately, embezzlement is huge in dental industry. And so let me encourage you, when you are starting to want to hire somebody, please do a background check, because this is one of the biggest things in this industry that happens is you have these people come in and they start embezzling from you and you don't even know it, So that's my first thing before we really get into the onboarding stuff, is know who you're bringing into your practice, because that's super important. And there are bad people out there, unfortunately. So, but once they do come in and you start the onboarding process, incorporate cybersecurity into that. When you are talking about the PTO and paying their vacation days and all of that, and you're going through the handbook, cybersecurity should be right there along with it.
I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to jump back again with you had talked about on one of our other earlier podcasts, you had talked about, we had both talked about hiring to your values, right? And how important that is. And during the hiring process, even before you bring them on, some of the things that you can look for to see if security is a part of who they are, like security and privacy. It's not just doing a background check. It's asking those right questions. It's looking at how they manage their own.
Yeah. How do you manage it at home? Mm-hmm. Debbie, our owner, she literally runs a cybersecurity framework within her household. So, maybe that's a little extreme. Probably not. We probably all should be doing it. But that's exactly right. Is that should be part of your interviews and making sure that these people, because you want people that are prideful in the work that they do and they take it seriously, and that really are, when they come to work, they are there to protect your practice. They're there to, you're not going to hire a front desk lady who's like, hi, what are you doing? Why are you here? No, you're going to hire somebody nice and smiling, and they're going to make that patient feel comfortable, and they're going to make them feel welcome. It's the same sort of thing. Is you want those employees that take pride in taking care of what they work for, take pride in the office and take pride in securing the office, take pride in securing the patient data, and that's what you really want to look for in an employee, that they take those things seriously. And that's going to make a better employee for you, for sure.
For sure. Okay. So now we got that person that we think is the right fit, and they have a culture, even in their own mind, of security and privacy. So now we bring them into the office. What do you think some of the onboarding bits and pieces are to really make sure that they're getting the right training?
Yeah. I think one is confidentiality agreements, is keeping everything private. And then talk about changing passwords and why that's important to change your password every 60, 90 days, make it a mandatory thing. Talk about not keeping your passwords stuck on a Post-it somewhere, train on those sort of things, making sure that they are, when they leave the office, you hit the window L key and that shuts down your screen, and don't leave patients sitting in there with the screen up. You would be surprised how many stories I've heard about all of a sudden they come back in to, the hygienist leaves and they come back in and the person's on the computer just like, oh, well, I wanted to look at my file. I wanted to look at my information, you can't have them on your computer. Who knows what kind of information that they can put up, or who knows what kind of information they are downloading, or, they decide they want to go on the internet and they download something. So it's very important, to train on those certain things, is, locking down your computers and shredding information. That's another one, and that's not even on your computer, but that's a safety issue. You have PHI sitting around, we've had offices where we see a huge box that's under there and they're like, oh, that's made for the shredder. Well, how often do you fill that box, and how often are you, so I'm like, let's get a tiny box and, we're going to shred every day, or make it a policy that you're training when you're onboarding, saying, hey, it's a policy in this office that we shred twice a day. We shred once when we go to lunch, and we then leave the office and nothing's left. And then we shred again at the end of the day before we leave. And, it's just like kind of cleanup. Like back in school, we had cleanup, tidy your desk before you go home. It's the same sort of policy. So you want to make sure that, access, what do they have access to? And, telling them, this is something you can go on. These are things that you can. And you can talk to your IT and make sure that they, that they can't go shopping and things like that. And people do that. But on a smaller scale, teach those things that you're probably going to let them go on the internet. Maybe they have access to Amazon or something, but don't take advantage of what you have access to. That's another thing, is don't take advantage of what they give you. And then we talked about this a little before, is the phishing emails. You've got to train on that. You've got to train people to really think before clicking on an email. If it doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. And then train of, what do you do at that point? Do you just say, oh, well, I got a phishing email? No, respond to somebody. If you have an IT company, or if you have somebody in-house at security, report it. If you see something, report it. It's just like my kids get trained at school. If you see bullying, or you see something, somebody's mental health isn't right, you see it and you report it. And so it's the same sort of thing in this area of cybersecurity. You see something a little fishy, it's probably fishy, and they call it phishing for a reason, because it's look fishy. But and also when you do see emails come in, you look at the email address, train on that, as well as looking at the email address, because I'll tell you what, an M could look like an R and an M put together, and it looks like an M, and they know this sort of thing. So you think that you're clicking on something that's reasonable, but it's mine, and your eyes see something different. So it's just being very cautious, and like we say, train on it, because that's where most of the breaches come from, is from employees. And that the percentage is really, really high. And that's where your breaches are coming from, is because somebody in the office has done something wrong.
And that devastates me, because can you imagine being that person who allowed a breach to happen because you weren't properly trained?
Well, and then also, when you're training as well, we know that things are going to happen, and that's fine. But how many times, and we talked about the tickets that we have, we give our clients the pad of paper that are tickets. And so when the office manager or whoever is in charge of security in the office goes around and sees maybe PHI laying on somebody's desk, or they see that somebody's left their computer open, or they see that somebody's password is stuck to the inside of their, or underneath their keyboard, or whatever it is, give them a ticket. And then
it's part of
have the
leadership, having an accountability process that, so that you're constantly speaking. That's how it becomes a part of your culture, when you hold people accountable, and you trust that everybody just really wants the best outcome for each other, right? So that that you're not taking offense to it. You appreciate that you're looking out for each other in those ways.
Absolutely. And consequences are important, and in that onboarding training, say, hey, we have these things, we have HIPAA tickets, we've got cybersecurity tickets, and one, you're going to get, told, and you're going to get a ticket. Two, maybe there's some consequences, and three, maybe that's a big consequence. And at that point, maybe termination needs to be looked at.
Right.
And so that way they're really taking it seriously. You're not just giving them 20 tickets and they're like, oh, got another ticket. No, have the consequences and teach them at onboarding, we take this seriously. You get 3 strikes and you're out. You're not part of this culture anymore because you're not taking it seriously. So those are all the types of things that, we want to make sure that you're training and you're open about. You can't just all of a sudden say to somebody one day, oh, well, you did this wrong and we're going to fire you. Well, no, that's not fair either, because you've got to have the training. You've got to have the ongoing training. You've got to have the smack on the hand, just like parents, you get a little tisk, and then, there's more consequences as time goes on if it happens over and over again. So
does DK Carr, do you do training for the?
Yeah.
Because you can't train what you don't know, right? Somebody there
absolutely
has to have a really thorough knowledge of both the technical side of it, the location side of it, and to be able to properly, implement that.
So when we do our yearly analysis for our clients, part of it, it's a 2-day. So and it's dependent on, how big the office is, but very few are 1 day. And those are very small offices, because one whole day is, we're going to computer. And then the second day we're sitting and talking about policies and procedures with the office manager and the dentist themselves. But 2 hours of that day is training. So every employee with it mandatory 2 hours. And we go through a lot of things like this. And so and we're actually starting now with our clients that we've been with for a long time. We're going to start doing tabletop exercises. So we're going to give them scenarios and say, hey guys, we've been here many, many years now. We know that you're getting trained on a regular basis. We know you have these policies and procedures. Now we're going to put you to the test, and we're going to do a little tabletop exercise, give you a scenario of something that could happen. What do you do? Because you want to test them to make sure that it's sinking in. Don't PowerPoint these employees on onboarding to death, because Snorville, just like I talked about earlier, you give them this big, huge booklet, a hand booklet. How many of them are reading it? And then 2, if you just have them sit there and you're PowerPointing them to death on slides after slides after slides, it's going in one ear and it's going out the other. So, make it an interactive training.
Practical application.
Onboarding. Yeah, absolutely. Because, I'm an on-hand person. That's how I learn. I've got to do it to learn it. I can't just read it. I can't just see it. I can't just hear it. I have to do it, And so
Well,
I
and you
think
have a
that's
team
really
that
important.
learns in a variety of ways, right? Some
Yeah.
people can learn from just seeing it. Some people can learn from just hearing it. Some people have to feel it, touch it, and put it into action.
Yeah.
So really, as part of, like you said, it shouldn't just be a one and done on your training. It should be regular training in lots of these ways, talking
Yeah.
about it, seeing things, experimenting with these tabletop learnings. I
Absolutely.
think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fun. You can make it fun, It doesn't have to be so serious. We don't have to make cybersecurity such a serious thing, and like have fun with it. It is a serious thing, but if you can really make it, like we keep saying, make it part of your culture. And so it's just second nature to them, it's not a bother anymore because it's just something that they do, if you don't do it all the time, then it's going to be this, oh, okay, so make it an ongoing thing. So then that way it's just second nature to everybody.
So part of your hiring, part of your onboarding, and then ongoing.
Absolutely.
Those three bits are so important to having.
So important.
Adding cybersecurity and privacy to your company culture.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here, Kate. Is there anything else that you want to touch on before we close out for this session?
No, I think that's it. Other than making sure that you get somebody like DK Carr to come in and help you along the way. We'd be happy to help any of your dental clients and practices, and we're here if you need us.
Absolutely. I cannot recommend you and your company enough. As you can see behind her shoulder, Kate at dkcar.com, and her number is 844 DK Carr number 1.
Number 1.
All right, girl, you are number 1. Thank you for being here.
Bye-bye.